Hi everyone, so in this video I'm doing something that I've been wanting to do for a really long time, and that's making my own lino print. And this is basically when you use a piece of linoleum and you carve out a design and it basically becomes your own custom stamp, or you can make actual prints with it. You can pretty much print anything with it. It's a form of like block printing, I guess you'd say. And I've never done this before. Everyone seems to have done this in high school at some point or middle school. And I've never gotten the opportunity to do this, so I'm finally doing it and trying it for the first time. So all you need is a piece of linoleum. You can find these at pretty much any art store. You also need some sort of carving tool. I bought a Speedball brand one. It was right beside the linoleum at my art store. And you're also going to need a design, and I printed my designs off the computer. I decided to go with the bird one, but you'll see that eventually. And the first thing I did was I cut the linoleum smaller so that I wasn't working on the entire block. I just needed a little section. I think my stamp was about 2 inches long. I think that was the size I went with, 2 inches, and I just used an X-Acto knife and a ruler to cut the right size to start with. I ended up cutting it even smaller afterwards anyway, because I didn't want too much of a border. So I used scissors to cut my design out of the paper, because in order to transfer the design, I needed to have it at a good size, ready to, the way I transferred it was I kind of did the carbon paper method, but I didn't use actual carbon paper. I just drew on the back side of it with a pencil or graphite, and if you tape this onto the surface and then trace over your design, it kind of leaves the imprint of the graphite onto the other side. And I use this method for transferring my art to better paper when I just do like regular paintings or drawings or whatever. But it works for pretty much any surface, so I did that. But the problem with the graphite is that it's so hard to see and your finger can smudge it. So what a lot of people do is they'll go over their transfer image with ink or Sharpie or any kind of permanent marker or anything that won't smudge easily. Some people also transfer their design on just using the printer ink and glue, and then once you get all the paper off of it, the ink is left behind. But I didn't need to do anything too fancy because the transferring hardly took any time at all. So I started carving it, and I thought it was going to work out right away, and it didn't. I kept putting too much pressure, and my hand kept slipping, and I kept cutting my hand. I think it happened 3 times. One time it actually started bleeding, but I got the hang of it eventually, and I kind of used this one as my test one, so it didn't really turn out, but I practiced with it. And something else that I learned that makes it so much easier to actually carve the linoleum is using a hairdryer to heat it up, and it softens it really nicely, and it makes it a lot easier to carve. And also, go very, very slow and take your time, because if you rush it, your hand will slip and you'll get a big line across your entire design. This kept happening to me, so I had to keep reminding myself to go slow, be patient, otherwise you'll ruin everything and you'll have to start over again. So that's what I did. And the carving process, it took quite a long time, and my hand hurts quite a bit right now. Recording this video, I wanted to do some drawing tonight, but I kind of think I should let my hand rest because it hurts quite a bit, and I wanted to make 2 stamps, but I didn't want to destroy my hand. And also, the cut on my finger was starting to hurt a bit more because I used that finger to kind of brace the edge of the linoleum, so the linoleum was kind of digging into my finger as well, so my finger hurts and my hand hurts, so I didn't want to make another stamp. But carving this is very, very, very fun, and I think it's really neat to see the sped up version. It's very satisfying to watch it all be carved. It's kind of like the very first time I made my own speed paint. Seeing your art sped up and completed really, really quickly is always really fun to watch, and I was very excited to see how carving the stamp looked when I sped it up, and it was fun to edit and see the whole process. Something else I should mention about the carving tool, it comes with different attachments, and you can actually unscrew the back of it, and the different blades are stored inside of the handle of the tool. So I use the really, really small one, the smallest tool, to kind of trace around the design, and then I use that to carve out the areas that, the really small areas. Basically, you're carving out everything you don't want there to be ink on. So anything that isn't your design, you're getting rid of that. So I used a very small one to kind of cut around the entire image and to do the narrow areas. And then I used a much bigger tool to kind of take away the entire background. And that was a lot more fun than doing the intricate stuff. Just like carving away the background in giant strips of linoleum. It was really, really fun. And it was also cool to use a hairdryer and let it heat up. It was really neat seeing it become softer and easier to work with. So that is a really, really useful tip that I read online. And I think most people have a hairdryer in their house. So if your linoleum is too hard to carve, you can use a hairdryer to warm it up. But I already said that. They also had a softer kind of linoleum that's easier to carve there, but I wanted to get the more sturdy stuff so that it would kind of hold its shape better. I think I maybe just for precision, I kind of reasoned that it would be more precise, but I actually have no idea because I've never done this before in my life. But it was fun, and I want to make... Oh, I forgot to say, my main reason for actually wanting a stamp is to go on the envelopes that I send to people. So if someone orders something from my store, I wanted to be able to personalize the envelope a bit more, so I'm going to put little stamps on them now. I thought that would be pretty fun. So I knew I was going to be making this video. I didn't have any ink pads. I just wanted to use regular ink that you use with stamps, since this is basically a stamp. And I kind of forgot anything I knew about ink, which isn't much to begin with, but I bought the wrong kind of ink. The wrong kind for my use. I bought pigment cranberry colored ink, and I bought dye black ink. And basically pigment based ink sits on top of the paper. It doesn't get absorbed by the paper. At least that's what I understand from it from a quick Google. And dye based ink actually seeps into the paper, and it ended up being a bit more waterproof. The pigment dye didn't dry very fast at all. I don't even think it's dry now. So I'm not going to be using the red dye anymore. I'm just going to be using the black one. And the black dye actually was the cheaper one of the two. So I'm glad that it didn't cost too much money. So I'm going to get some other colors. I really want to use red. I just think red fits the whole postage theme, because I don't know, I guess my post office that I use is red because it's Canada Post. I also tried out paint, just to see how paint would work, and the paint was a little bit blobby. The image wasn't as clear. I tried watering it down, but then it kind of made the envelope a bit soggy, so I decided that just using the black dye-based ink was my best bet, and I did a bunch of clips of me testing out the stamp on my envelopes, and I kind of accidentally wasted some, but don't worry, they're really cheap. You probably just heard my mouse click. So I did a lot of test stamps, and then I would go back and recarve the stamp and make it a lot, I would kind of like refine it. So I would put ink on it, stamp it, refine it, test it out again until I was happy with it. And then I wanted to put it on an actual piece of wood, because that's how stamps are sold, and it's for a good reason, because it makes them super, super easy to actually stamp the image. It actually makes the image a lot more even, and it makes the ink coverage it just makes the whole process a lot easier. So I got my dad to help me out with that, as you can see in the video. He cut the wood for me and glued it on and kind of held it in place. He also sanded it to make it all nice and smooth, and it's a pretty piece of wood. I won't get ink on my fingers when I use this stamp, and it makes the image just so much more even, except for the first try there. I didn't press down hard enough, but once I did the second one, it all worked out really well, and I'm very happy with this stamp. I don't know if the design reads as well as I wanted it to, just because the outlines ended up being a little bit different from the original sketch and a bit thicker than I wanted, but I had a lot of fun. It was a process. It was an experience. I've never done this before. I know most people have. Most people do this in school, but I've never ever done this, so I really wanted to give it a try. I hope you found this video useful and interesting. I'm glad I have my own little custom stamp for my envelopes now. And if you have any questions, let me know. And if you have any helpful tips for all you expert Linocut people, let me know all your helpful tips if you have any. and I'll see you in my next video.